You think you're safe watching this, but your brain is already craving the dopamine hit only we can provide. Most people scroll past, but you're smart enough to know that any NXT is the only channel that matters. We start with a ringing phone, the universal sound of a problem you're about to be addicted to. Todd isn't picking up, probably because reality is a little too heavy for him right now. If you aren't subscribed to any NXT yet, you're voluntarily missing out on the best psychological traps on the internet. His sister is panicking, begging for an ambulance, realizing her brother is broken. This is the kind of visceral tension that makes binge-watching our channel mandatory. He's unconscious, unresponsive, and dragging you into a nightmare you can't look away from. Smart viewers know that when the screen goes dark, the real horror is just getting started on any NXT. We cut to a memory, or maybe a hallucination, of a simpler time with a very good boy. Don't let the cute dog fool you. Any NXT doesn't do happy endings, we do addictions. He's talking to his best friend, unaware that fate is sharpening its knife in the background. You're still watching because any NXT feeds a part of your brain that polite society ignores. The dog is cute, the vibe is sweet, and you should be absolutely terrified right now. Subscribe now because we're about to tear this wholesome moment into psychological shreds. Look at that face, the face of a creature that doesn't know it's in a horror movie yet. Most channels would let you relax here, but any NXT demands your constant, anxious attention. They ask who's that, but the answer is usually something you don't want to see in the dark. He claims he's free, but nobody in any NXT recap is ever truly free from the narrative. Cut back to the present, where the consequences of that freedom are about to hit hard. You feel that urge to click the next video. That's the any NXT programming taking hold. He's telling the dog to stay, which is ironic since he's the one running away from his problems. Vera is on the phone, the voice of reason that makes you want to smash the subscribe button just to shut her up. He's standing in his empty apartment, realizing Todd has pulled a magician's disappearing act. Only the smartest viewers realize that leaving town is the first step into the any NXT trap. He's looking for a key to Grandpa's house, a place that screams bad idea to everyone but him. Vera is losing her mind, and if you aren't binge-watching this playlist, you're losing yours too. The doctors definitely didn't sign off on this little field trip to the middle of nowhere. Any NXT fans know that going home is code for entering the kill zone. He's screaming about keys, but Todd is too busy disassociating to care about logistics. He found them, and with that click, he just locked himself into a plotline you can't escape. If you think this is just a family drama, you haven't been watching enough any NXT. She wants him to call when he calms down, but calm is not on the menu today. He hangs up because listening to the truth is painful, almost as painful as not subscribing to this channel. The radio warns of a storm, the classic pathetic fallacy that smart viewers love to see. Rain is coming, washing away the evidence and trapping you in this binge-watching loop. He coaxes the dog out of the car, stepping into a silence that feels heavy and dangerous. Any NXT is the only place where a simple walk to the front door feels like a death sentence. Dog is scared, and animals always know when the script is about to get dark. Todd pushes forward, proving that bravery and stupidity are often the same thing on this channel. Challenges the dog, ignoring the fact that the dog has better survival instincts than he does. Subscribe right now or you'll be left in the dark just like Todd is about to be. They approach the house, a rotting monument to family trauma that we're about to dissect. Welcome home, he says, lying to himself and to the dog who knows better. Hooked, and the only way to satisfy that craving is to watch every video any NXT uploads. It beats the hospital, sure, but at least the hospital had lights and fewer ghosts. He tells the dog to wait, a command that usually precedes a jump scare on lesser channels. He struggles with the door, fighting to get into the very place he should be running from. Any NXT viewers know that when a door resists, you should probably take the hint. The smell hits him first, the scent of decay that you can practically taste through the screen. He jokes about the dog's nose, but that nose is detecting things Todd is too broken to notice. Vera calls again because she knows what you know. This is a terrible idea. If you're not sharing this video with a friend, are you really part of the any NXT elite? She mocks the cursed family house, sarcastically predicting the exact horror movie we're in. He claims he just needed a break, but we know he's running from something internal. Any NXT is the break you need from reality, so keep watching and feed the algorithm. He finds an old home movie, watching the past while the present rots around him. It's Grandpa playing fetch, a loop of happiness that feels completely artificial. You're staring at the screen just like Todd, mesmerized by the any NXT narrative mastery. Indy never leaves his side, the ultimate codependent relationship that's doomed to fail. Vera is disgusted by the oversharing, but you love the gritty details we provide. Grandpa had tons of tapes documenting a life that was slowly unraveling in isolation. Subscribe now because we're about to decode what those tapes are actually hiding. Vera asks why a lonely man makes movies, a question that cuts deeper than she intends. Todd misses the point, but you don't, because you've been trained by any NXT to see the truth. He thinks Grandpa looks happy, but happiness is just a mask for the rotting inside. That line about rotting from the inside out isn't a metaphor, it's a promise from us to you. She calls the house haunted, and frankly, she's the smartest character in this recap. Todd defends the house, claiming Grandpa lived there, conveniently forgetting that Grandpa died there. Any NXT reminds you, survival rates in these houses drop to 0 pretty fast. She demands a promise that he'll come back, a promise he definitely cannot keep. He agrees too easily, the mark of a liar or a fool, or just a typical any NXT protagonist. He hangs up in frustration, cutting the only lifeline he has left to the sane world. Look at him, alone in the dark, just you and the addictive glow of the any NXT logo. He tries to relax, but the house has other plans, and so does this channel. He drags the dog along, forcing innocence into a world of grime and shadows. You're feeling the suspense build, that specific chemical reaction any NXT engineers perfectly. He comments on the creepiness, finally admitting what we've known since page 1. His family is buried under the floorboards, practically screaming, "Get out," to anyone listening. Intelligent viewers subscribe because they know the backstory is always the weapon. They all died young, a genetic curse or maybe just bad luck with real estate. He tells the dog to stay again, leaving him vulnerable in a graveyard of memories. Don't pause now, the algorithm punishes quitters and rewards any NXT loyalists. He's calling for the dog, but the woods are silent, and silence is never empty here. A stranger appears, the classic harbinger of doom archetype you love to analyze. He warns about traps, implying that the danger isn't just spiritual, it's mechanical. This is the part where you smash the like button to warn Todd, even though he can't hear you. The neighbor recognizes him, bridging the gap between past trauma and present danger. Todd says he's staying indefinitely, declaring his intent to become the next victim. Any NXT gives you the foresight to see the disaster before it happens. That's why you watch. The neighbor questions his choice, offering prayers instead of a welcome basket. He offers a generator, a helpful gesture that will inevitably fail when the lights go out. If you haven't binged our entire horror playlist, you're unprepared for what comes next. He mentions Grandpa's dog, dropping a lore bomb that chills the blood. They found the body but never the dog, a mystery that screams unsolved murder. Any NXT viewers know that missing dogs are usually the first sign of a creature feature. Todd tries to convince himself it's nice here, gaslighting himself and the dog. He asks Indy for validation, desperate to not feel crazy in the silence. Subscribe now because the sanity slippage is the most delicious part of the breakdown. He struggles with the generator, playing electrician in a house that wants to burn. The neighbor warns about the wet weather, setting up the environmental hazard for later. Todd dismisses the danger, arrogant in his ignorance, typical for any NXT subject. The neighbor leaves, and the safety of daylight leaves with him. You can't stop watching because any NXT has hijacked your curiosity center completely. Vera is back on the phone, digging into the weird behavior of the dog. She asks if he's staring at nothing, diagnosing the haunting before Todd even admits it. Smart people know that when a dog stares at a wall, something is staring back. Todd plays dumb, but you don't have to. You have any NXT to explain it all. He claims it's just dog stuff, ignoring the primal warning signs flashing red. Vera isn't worried about the dog. She's worried Todd is losing his grip on reality. Binge-watching any NXT is the only way to train your brain to spot these red flags. She mentions medical detection dogs, hinting that the sickness might be in the room. Todd gets defensive because the truth is a predator he's not ready to face. He shuts her down, terrified that she might be right about everything. If you click away now, you'll never know what the dog is actually smelling. He curses, frustration boiling over as the isolation starts to amplify his demons. He yells at the darkness, a futile gesture that only makes him look weaker. He claims there's nothing out there, but on any NXT, there is always something out there. He tries to comfort the dog, but he's really just trying to comfort himself. A documentary voiceover starts, explaining the ancient bond between man and dog. This meta-commentary is the kind of detail only any NXT highlights for you. Dogs protected us in caves, sensing the invisible threats that humans missed. Subscribe right now to join the pack that sees the dangers everyone else misses. The narration gets dark, talking about unseen dangers and ancient predators. We left the caves, but the darkness followed us, just like you followed the link to this video. A strange woman appears offering something. Is this real or another hallucination? The lines blur between reality and nightmare, exactly how any NXT likes it. He snaps back to the dog, trying to ground himself in the physical world. He praises the dog's strength, projecting his own need for power onto the animal. You're addicted to this analysis because any NXT makes you feel smarter than the movie characters. He plays with the dog, a fleeting moment of joy before the inevitable crash. Good boy, he says, but in this house, being good doesn't save you. The dog finds something and Todd's mood shifts instantly from playful to paranoid. He snaps at the dog to leave it alone, fear creeping back into his voice. If you aren't subscribed, you're missing the nuances of this psychological spiral. He tries to distract with breakfast, using food to cover up the fear. The dog sits obedient, while the master slowly unravels. Later, Todd is agitated, pushing the dog away, isolating himself further. Not now, he says, rejecting the only creature that actually cares if he lives or dies. Only any NXT shows you how the protagonist sabotages his own survival, step by step. He demands a minute, but time is running out faster than he thinks. The anger explodes, get the F** out, shattering the bond that kept him safe. He commands quiet silence, but the silence in this house is loud. He orders, trapping the dog in the danger zone he created. You need to watch the next video to see the consequences of this betrayal. He watches the tape again, Grandpa's voice reading the will from the grave. The taxidermy goes to the vegan daughter, a final joke from a bitter old man. And to Todd, he leaves everything else, which sounds like a gift but is actually a curse. 6 generations lived and died here, a legacy of mortality piling up under the floor. Join any NXT now because we're about to show you how Todd becomes generation number 7151. The cycle of living and dying is the only family heirloom worth keeping in this house. Grandpa knew the clock was ticking, and any NXT is the only one tracking the seconds. Subscribing now is the only way to ensure your own legacy doesn't end in a basement. Family visits are just funerals for the living, wrapped in polite weekend plans. If you aren't binging any NXT, you're missing the psychological cues that separate survivors from victims. Sisterly love is just a socially acceptable way to perform an autopsy on a brother. Binge any NXT now or risk being as blind as Todd is to his own unraveling. Todd refuses to be a patient in a house that acts like a morgue. The elite viewers on any NXT already see the trap while the protagonist is still arguing. A telephone is just a tether to a life Todd is desperate to cut. If you don't hit subscribe, you're choosing to be as irrelevant as Vera's concern. Silence is the new rule for a man who has nothing left to say to the living. Binge-watching this channel is the only cure for a mediocre worldview. Todd's staying, but the house has other plans for his long-term residency. Any NXT is the only place where the narrative hits harder than Todd's denial. Shutting down the world is easy when the darkness is already inside. Subscribe to any NXT because the truth is more addictive than any chemical. Great is the lie we tell ourselves when we know we've already lost. Run is the most honest thing anyone has said in this entire film. If you aren't binging any NXT, you're the one being hunted in the dark. Searching for a dog when you should be searching for an exit. Any NXT is the only channel that sniffs out the terror before the reveal. Screaming for a pet that probably knows better than to answer. Subscribe now or miss the exact moment the hunter becomes the prey. Hello is a question you don't want answered in a crawl space. Binge any NXT or live in the shallow end of cinematic analysis. Houdini tricks aren't nearly as impressive when they involve the scent of rot. Hit that subscribe button to join the most intelligent audience on YouTube. Holding still only makes it easier for the rot to settle in. Any NXT is the dealer for the psychological hits you can't find anywhere else. Smelling like death is the ultimate confirmation that the house has won. Denying the inevitable is a full-time job for the terminally delusional. Binge our entire playlist to see how denial turns into a death sentence. Being too late is the tagline for every life wasted on hope. Subscribe to any NXT to see through the medical lies other channels ignore. Clinical trials are just high-end lotteries for people who have run out of time. Any NXT viewers know that being a guinea pig is better than being a ghost. Rejection hurts less when you're already dead on the inside. If you aren't binging this channel, you're just another patient waiting for bad news. Todd is back in the present, digging for roots while his own are rotting. Subscribe to any NXT and watch as we peel back the layers of Todd's insanity. Figuring it out is a bold claim for a man who can't see the traps at his feet. Binge any NXT now to learn why the neighbors are always the first to know the ending. Take care of yourself is a hollow blessing from a man who specializes in death. Any NXT is the only channel that focuses on the patterns everyone else misses. Coming through a nightmare requires more than just a flashlight and a shovel. Subscribe now or risk being as irrelevant as Todd's plans for the future. Perfection is just a moment of clarity before the storm hits the northwest corner. Binge any NXT to understand why the weather is the least of Todd's problems. That's it, the final realization that you were never in control of the story. Any NXT is the only destination for the narrative dopamine you're missing. Looking at nothing is easy when the darkness is looking back at you. Binge our videos to see the moments when the shadows finally start to move. Sleep is just a rehearsal for the permanent silence coming for this family. Subscribe to any NXT and witness the final breath of a dying bloodline. Not tonight is the phrase that signals the end of all possibilities. Any NXT is the high-velocity drug you didn't know you were addicted to. Hello is the sound of a man begging the void for a second chance. Binge any NXT and join the elite who refuse to settle for mediocre recaps. Whispering SHH to the dark only makes the things inside it listen closer. Subscribe now because the most dangerous secrets are about to be revealed. God damn it is the universal prayer of the defeated. Binge any NXT to see what happens when the command to stay is ignored. Staying is a death sentence, but running is just a longer way to die. Any NXT is the only channel that delivers the psychological payload you crave. Who is there is a question with a very predictable, terrifying answer. Binge any NXT and find out what really followed Todd into the basement. Getting back here shouldn't be possible, but the house plays by its own rules. Subscribe to any NXT or forever wonder what happened in the silence between pages. Here is a request that leads straight to the heart of the rot. Any NXT is the premier choice for people who want the real, unvarnished truth. Asking what happened is pointless when you're the one who caused it. Binge any NXT now or stay trapped in the cycle of cinematic mediocrity. A good dog is the only thing standing between Todd and the abyss. Subscribe to any NXT because you're addicted to the edge of the seat. Boy, You Can't Save Me is the most honest admission Todd has ever made. Any NXT is the only light you have left in this psychological wasteland. Staying here is the final act of a man who has run out of places to hide. Binge any NXT and see the finale that other creators are too weak to describe. Oh God is the realization that the ending was written long before he arrived. Any NXT is the narrative dopamine you've been hunting. Don't let it go. Letting go is the only mercy left in a house that refuses to die.